Has just released a statement saying President Cyril Ramaphosa has received a preliminary report from the team of Special Envoys dispatched to deliver messages of solidarity to a number of African countries following the recent spate of public violence in South Africa and attacks on mainly foreigners. We now talk to Khusela Diko, who is the spokesperson in the presidency, for details on the report. A very good morning to you and thanks for joining us this morning, Ms. Diko.
Good morning, Desiree. Good morning to your viewers, and thank you so much for inviting us on the show.
What's the content of the report?
Well, you'll remember, Desiree, following the public violence attacks that we had in the country, the president deployed the former minister, Jeff Radebe, as well as his special advisor on international relations, Dr. Kulumbat, to several African countries. They started off their visit in West Africa, where they went to Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, and Niger. This is the first leg in what we believe is going to be a continental discussion where, once again, South Africa is seeking to firstly reaffirm our commitment to the ideals of progressive internationalism, to Pan-Africanism, but to solidarity with peoples from the rest of the continent and beyond. The president felt it was important to do this because you will know that, firstly, there had been very misleading reports about what had transpired in South Africa. People used social media to create an impression of absolute pandemonium in the country. Now, we thought that we must contextualize that and explain that we've had a series of attacks that were directed both at foreign nationals as well as local businesses, that, you know, of the 12 people who were reported having passed away, none of them were nationals, well, only 2 of them were nationals from other countries outside of South Africa, but that there are serious socio-economic challenges that confront the people of South Africa. And while we realize the need for government working together with all social partners to do more to resolve those challenges, there are absolutely no justification. There's no justification whatsoever for the violence that had been meted out. So this report then of the envoys speaks to the absolute generosity of spirit that the envoys were received in by the heads of state in the countries that they visited. They also spoke about the fact that those heads of state have once again recommitted themselves to a solid relationship with South Africa, one that is built on bonds of friendship or historical relations. But they've also noted with concern some of these socio-economic challenges that we speak about, including criminality that is said in certain instances to be caused by foreign nationals. Now, Desiree, you'll know that in South Africa, you know, a majority of people of foreign origin who are in the country are law-abiding citizens who contribute to the economy of this country, but there are also those, like South Africans, who break the law. So the heads of state have affirmed South Africa's position that our laws will apply equally to everybody. Whoever is a perpetrator of criminal activity will be dealt with by our law enforcement agencies, regardless of their origin. They've also committed to Nigeria in particular to work with the South African government, you know, in dealing with issues of criminality, and when necessary to have a collaboration between our intelligence agencies to ensure that we are able to bring those perpetrators to book. So the preliminary report, Desiree, indicates a very warm welcome for which the president is very grateful, and has communicated that to their excellencies through the special envoy. And we trust that the upcoming visit will do more to ensure that as the continent of Africa, we really move with speed to realize our aspirations as contained in Vision 2063.
It's actually important that you're raising the issue of criminality, especially encompassing it within the area of socioeconomic challenges that it was dealt with. But what were these governments giving in terms of solutions on how South Africa can deal with this? Because it's a big problem.
It's a very, very big problem, Desiree, but we must also not scapegoat, I think, as South Africans, because we have challenges that we need to deal with in this country, the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. We also have a high crime rate that we need to ensure that we're able to contain and reduce drastically. Now, having said that, we do understand that amongst us, like South Africans, you do have foreign nationals who engage in such criminal activity. So the first point of discussion is how do we work together as Africa to ensure that we realize a prosperous Africa, a prosperous Africa that is economically integrated, that as the founding fathers of the Organization of African Unity had envisioned, it would be an Africa where there's a free movement of goods, of people, of services. Those are the ideals that we still look forward to, but we need to ensure that as we do that, we strengthen our systems to be able to deal with issues of migration, but we also then strengthen our capacity to respond to issues of lawlessness. We don't even want to couch, criminality and lawlessness under an impression that, it's xenophobia or anything else. Lawlessness is lawlessness, whoever perpetrates it, and that the South African government is committed to dealing with. And we've asked our sister countries on the continent to assist us to manage those particular dynamics. It's also expected that the envoys will be making a similar visit to the African Union, and we're hoping that we'll be able to look at these issues not dispassionately because they are emotive issues, but what is necessary at the core is for us to develop the African continent as a whole, because then people want to stay, in their home countries. You don't have economic refugees who are fleeing, the circumstances in the countries where they come from. It's work in progress, but there are short-term interventions that we can make, including, like I indicated, the commitment from Nigeria to collaborate with us in terms of intelligence agencies, ensuring that the South African police does their job with our share of favor, but also strengthening our border management capacity.
Of course, we covered this story extensively here at home, but it was also a big international story. Do you think international media gave the development of sending envoys out sufficient coverage as well? Did they have enough interest in it?
We can always do better, Desiree. I think just in terms of coverage, but also sending the message that reaffirms the position of the South African government, but also the South African people. I mean, we have consistently said that as a South African nation, we are not an inherently xenophobic nation, but we do have challenges that we expect that our government, as well as other governments on the continent, will assist us to work on. But on the issue of media, Desiree, I do want to raise the point that we've had a lot of instances where even some amongst the media, whether it's local media or international media, would be part of fueling, these tensions by, on social media, sending information that is incorrect, creating, as I indicated, a very misleading narrative. Just last week, President Ramaphosa hosted the former president of Nigeria, His Excellency Obasanjo. And President Obasanjo was saying that it was not until he got to South Africa that he became aware that not a single Nigerian national had lost their lives during those public violence attacks that we had a couple of weeks ago. Now, if him at his level is not even aware that such information is not true, how much more for the ordinary man on the street who's relying just on media or social media for information? So we do think that there's an opportunity perhaps for us to work more closely to tell the true stories, but ensure that what we communicate is obviously factual.
Also related to this, but not part of it, the Minister of International Relations, Naledi Pandor, delivering a powerful speech at UNGA 74 in relation to gender equality and recommitting South Africa's stance in terms of not being xenophobic. How is the President responding to the speech?
Well, the President has welcomed the work that was done by the South African delegation led by Minister Pandor at UNGA. I think the values that she communicated are really at the core and the essence of what the South African government is working to do. I mean, when you speak of issues of gender equality, South Africa continues to rank high, amongst nations of the world where we're committed, not just in word, but in deed, to ensure that we realize gender equality across many spheres. I mean, we're one of only 12 countries, I think it is, in the world where our cabinet has 50% of it being women. But gender equality for us, Desiree, goes beyond, just representative participation. It goes to the core of the work that we're doing on a daily basis, especially seeking to deal with issues of gender-based violence. You just need to look at, it's almost 25 years since the Beijing Platform of Action, and you just need to look at a lot of the things that we've done in that area and we continue to do to ensure that we realize it. So indeed, from across Minister Pandor's speech, our Sustainable Development Goals country report that Minister Jackson Mthembu had submitted, and the work that Minister Barbara Creecy led on climate change. I think we had a strong showing at UNGA this year, and once again, the President, it was quite unfortunate that he couldn't make it, but Team South Africa represented extremely well.
So there have been questions raised about the countries that the envoys went to, that Nigeria is the only country that's seemingly affected that the team went to, but Ghana, Senegal, Niger, Zambia. How did you decide on which countries the envoys were going to start engaging with?
Well, the intention is to ensure they engage with as many countries as possible. As I indicated, they will be doing another round of visits, perhaps within the region of SADC, looking at countries such as Zambia, which was not visited in the last round, countries such as the Democratic Republic of Congo, also the continental body, the African Union, and a number of others. They were chosen, for various reasons. They were chosen for various reasons. You have Niger, which is the chairperson of ECOWAS, and it was important that we begin to engage there. We have close relations with Ghana, with Nigeria. At the core of it, whenever we speak about these attacks and how they're labeled xenophobic attacks, it affects every single African. And our intention would be to ensure that we reach as many as possible. The President also continues to have conversations, informal and otherwise, with a number of other heads of state that are closer to us. President Mnangagwa, for example, of Zimbabwe, as well as the President of Mozambique. They also had discussions around these issues. So our intention is to ensure that we get to as many countries as we're able to.
Ms. Khusela Diko is a spokesperson in the Office of the Presidency. Thank you so much for your time this morning.